Hello, class. How long? Of course, we had our meeting, but let's go. It is started to remember the content, okay? And today we're going to start with second conditional. Second conditional, okay? How do you use second conditional? Do you know? We use to hypothetical situation, to imaginary situation, okay? So second condition is made with if plus past in the first sentence, in the first clause, and the next one we have would or it's negative, wouldn't, okay? So we use the second conditional to talk about an imaginary or hypothetical situation in the future, okay? So if I had money, I would travel. So we can use the modal verb could to replace would in the consequence sentence. So if I had money, I could travel. If I had money, I would travel. Okay? Got it? Let's go. Now, we have the structure here. The structure of the second conditional. The structure of the second conditional is if plus subject plus simple past, comma, it's very important, comma, plus subject would, wouldn't, plus the verb in its base form. So, if I start the sentence with the conditional clause, if, I need to split the two using a comma, right? Teacher, what about if I decide to change, if I decide to put the result, the consequence clause first? Okay, you can do it, no problem. But, no comma is needed. No comma is necessary. So, take a look in the second line here. Subject, would or wouldn't, plus verb in its base form, if starting the conditional sentence. Then the subject plus the simple past and a complement if it's necessary, if it's needed in here, okay? If it needed in here. So, again, we have two ways to write a second conditional sentence. The first one, when I start with if, the conditional clause, or when I start with the result, the consequence clause sentence. In the first case, when I have the conditional if plus the subject plus the simple past, comma, 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 and then the result, the consequence. If I want to start using the consequence first, then I can do it, but no comma is needed, because the if starts, the if shows, the if marks the beginning of the result sentence. Is that okay? It's easy. Just take a look, just pay attention, and you can do it. You can do it. I totally believe in you. So the structure, if, subject, simple past, the if, the conditional. The result, we have subject, would, wouldn't, the base form of the verb, and a complement if it needed, if it required. Okay? Very nice? Good. Now, in the next step, in the next procedure, it's normal to use the contraction form of would. It's pretty normal. It's pretty normal. So we just put apostrophe D. It's equal would. And we can do it like I'd, you'd, we'd, they'd. We can do with all the personal pronouns. We can do it. It's pretty easy. It's pretty common. So, pay attention, right? If I want to make the contraction, just do it. Just do it. Just apostrophe D. But if I'm talking about the negative part, as we can see, would not, wouldn't, would not, wouldn't, I wouldn't, you wouldn't, she wouldn't, he wouldn't, we wouldn't. That's the contraction negative form, okay? Wouldn't. In the positive, I'd, you'd, he'd, she'd. Negative, I wouldn't, he wouldn't, she wouldn't, it wouldn't. Okay, right? Would plus not becomes together, comes wouldn't. I'd, he'd, did in the affirmative, wouldn't in the negative. Right? So far so good. Is it okay? Can you understand? Is it easy? We're going to have a list to follow. Now, pay attention here. Was and were. The verb be in the second conditional. How can we do it? How do we use it? The verb be in this case. Let's see. Look this amazing example. If Saulo was here, or if Saulo were there, not here, there. If Saulo was there, if Saulo were there, he would know what to answer. Of course. If Saulo was there, if Saulo were there, he would know what to answer. So, in the second conditional, pay attention, okay? Don't use this all the way long. No. In the second conditional, we use were instead was, or we can use was, no problem, not a big deal. We can use both to talk about, for example, I was, right? In all other cases, I was sick in the simple past, but I can't use I were sick in the simple past. But here in the second conditional, we can use I were, if I were, if I were there. In the conditional clause, please, in the conditional clause with if, right? So, but look this case, because we have a special case here with the expression if I were you, if I were you. If I were you, I wouldn't do that. If I were you, I wouldn't skip the class. Okay? So if I were you, it's to give an advice. Okay? If I were you, as we can see here, when we are talking about the expression if I were you, we must use were, not was. This sentence is used to give advice. If I were, it's to give advice. If I were you, I would study more. If I were you, I wouldn't skip class. If I were you, I wouldn't miss lunch. Right? Good. Can you understand? Look at this example. If I were you, I would study more for the exams. If I were you, I would study more for the exams. So, it's pretty easy, right? What do you think about it? Did you like it? I hope you do. Okay? If you have any questions, please leave your comment here. And bye. Take care and study hard. Study a lot. You can do it.